Okay, we are learning Yoma Daf Lamed Gimel Amid Beis. Join us. We're going to start on the bottom of Lamed Gimel Amid Aleph. We are going through the Menorah of Abaye that is said in Tehil and Karbanis every morning. The Abaye being Misad, the Menorah, Mishmei, the Gemara, Alibada, Shol. And we're going through each step and explaining why the one that is precedes the other. So we're on the bottom of Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, 4 lines down. The Disha Mizbeach Hapnimi Koydem Lahatovas Chamesh Nerus. You clean out the Mizbeach Hapnimi before you prepare the Nerus. In fact, my timer. What is the reason? Why couldn't you do Hatovas Nerus first? Simar says, Abai Amar Abaye Gemara Gemirna Svara Lo Yadana. Gemara Gemirna means this is halacha mishmei Sinai. This is Torah Shabbat Peh. This is how we have it, and I don't know a reason for it. I can't give you a reason why that should be. Okay, Rava Amar Kid Reish Lakish. What did we have a memory of Reish Lakish? Dam Reish Lakish a klal Ein Ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. You can't pass over mitzvahs. You can't pass by a mitzvah. Ein Ma'avirin ala mitzvahs means you can't pass by a mitzvah. So what? When you walk into the Heichel, what do you come in contact with first? The Mizbeach, Pagabaresha. You knock into the Mizbeach first. And therefore, that is the first thing you have to service. You can't pass it and go on to the Menorah. You have to deal with the Mizbeach first. How do you know that the Mizbeach is first? The Tanya learned in the Raisa. Shulchan B'Tzafain. When the Kohen would walk into the Heichel, so to his right was the Tzafon, that was north, and that would be where the Shulchan was. And it was 2.5 amos away from the wall of the Heichel. Rashi says because when they brought in the lechem upon him, 2 Kehanim had to walk in between the wall and the Shulchan. And another 2 Kehanim were on the other side in order that they should be able to put on the new lechem and take off the old lechem at the same time. So there needs to be room for both of them. The Menorah was on the south side, which would be on this Kohen's left. So also 2.5 amos away from the wall, and that's just to parallel the Shulchan. Memutza, a Mizbeach. The Mizbeach was in the middle, but it was a bit drawn towards the outside, meaning closer to the entrance of the Heichel, a bit. In fact, the Gemara why don't you just put it opposite, put it in the middle of the Shulchan and Menorah. Since the Pasuk says, since the Pasuk says the Menorah was opposite the Shulchan, they had to be able to see each other. Okay, so what do we see from Reish Lakish? What do we see from this brisa? That the Mizbeach was the first thing you came into when you walked into the Heichel, and therefore the avodah done to the Mizbeach needs to be done first. Amarava Shemami na midireish. I lost it there. Amarava Shemami na midireish Lakish. We learn from Reish Lakish Avurei Dara. Atetafta asur, for the arm to pass over the tetaf, the tefillin shel reish asur, that is forbidden. Hechiyavit. So what should you do? Midara l'taftafta. You should do your arm before your head. What does this mean? So there are a few pshatim. Let's take a look at Rashi first. Rashi is to the left. Midrash Lakish the Amar Ein Ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. You learn avurei dara atetafta la'acher tefillin shebizraya b'shvil tefillin shel reish asur. You can't put on the tefillin. You can't la'acher the tefillin shebizraya. You couldn't delay the tefillin of the arm before the tefillin shel reish. Because you're going to put on the arm first. Rashi says, "Min zraya yavi al hareish yaniach shebizraya." Tchila first put on your tefillin shel reish. Ba'achar yaniach shel the zraya. First you put on the tefillin shel yad, and then you put on the tefillin shel reish. It sounds like Rashi's what his issue is that if in your tefillin bag if you're going to put your hand in and you can't pass over your tefillin shel yad to go to your tefillin shel reish. You have to put on the tefillin shel yad first. That's what it sounds like. That's why if you're righty, you put your tefillin shel yad on the right. If you're lefty, you put your tefillin shel yad on the left. So the first thing you hit is your tefillin shel yad. Now, the problem with this is that there's a drasha. The pasuk says, "Ukshartem lo'is ayadecha v'yulot tefais b'neinecha." So you have to put your tefillin shel yad on first, and then your tefillin shel reish. So it's possible that you would have said, well, you have to write both. So one doesn't have to be first. Maybe the Torah is not coming to give you to tell you how to do it, the order to do it in. Taisha seems to understand, no, that it's a drasha. And it means that you only put kashu maniach shel yad v'achach shel reish. That's the pasuk. So what do I need this drasha of Ein Ma'avirin al mitzvos for? You got to do it. That's the order the Torah puts it in. So Teishas brings from Rabbeinu Tam and Haigain. It's talking about how you put your tefillin away. Here, not side by side, but he's saying you can't put your tefillin shel reish on top, because then you're gonna have to pass by your tefillin shel reish. You got to your tefillin shel yad and your ma'avirin al mitzvos, because you have to do that. So you're gonna end up being ma'avirin al mitzvos because you have to put the tefillin shel yad on first. Maybe you're gonna have to pass by your tefillin shel reish, and that's not good. One shot. Then he brings from Rabbi Yom that it's talking about when you kiss your tefillin. There's a halacha you're supposed to always, you're not supposed to be sefer, so you're doing that move. So when you do that move, you got to do your tefillin shel yad first, because that's the first thing your hand goes by. If you go to your tefillin shel reish without passing by your tefillin shel yad, that'd be ma'avirin al mitzvos. Interesting. Just go back to a point for a minute. This just makes the point that the halacha of Reish Lakish is only when you have two things that you're supposed to do right now. So then you would have a halacha of Ein Ma'avirin al mitzvos. Reish Lakish's halacha is that when you have two things to do currently, so Ein Ma'avirin al mitzvos would say, don't pass one to do the other. Okay, but if you're only doing one, then if you're only going to do one mitzvah now, so you don't have to do the other one if you're only coming to do one. Okay. Good. So that took care of why we're being medashin and bezmeach hapnimi before halatavas haneris. Great. Says the Gemara, we go weiter. Vatavas chamesh neris kedem adam atomid. Hatavas chamesh neris, preparing 5 candles, comes before the dam hatamid. We said dam hatamid means the shchita and the zrika of the dam. So the Gemara says the dam hatamid koidim latavas shtei neris, and the dam hatamid comes before the tava of the other 2 neris. So what's going on over here? My time. Amrabai. So we have like this. It says by the Talmud, it says Baboiker. Right? It says that's by the current Talmud. It says by the Menorah, Baboiker. Okay. We also have Baboiker by the Shnei Gizri Eitzim. Now the Gemara says we don't need a darshan Baboiker by the Shnei Gizri Eitzim, because we learned from because we had a sort of machshir adif, right? Shnei Gizri Eitzim are machshir the ketera, so we didn't need the drasha Baboiker there. So therefore, we have an extra Baboiker. So listen to this Gemara. It says it wasn't necessary to write it there. So shadinu lahacha. So we're going to divide these 2 Baboikers and throw it over here. Chad shadi latavas chamesh neris, delikdeme ladam hatamid, v'chad shadi ladam hatamid, denakdeme latavas shtei neris. Okay, we're going to add a Baboiker to the Hatavas Haneris, which is now going to give me 3 bikers by the Tavas and Aries. And then we're going to add and take another one of those bikers and put it to the Tam HaTamid, so it'll give me 2. So listen to the Gemara. Chad Shadi La Tavas Chamesh Nerois De Lakadme Ladam HaTamid. 1 biker we're gonna send over to Tavas Chamesh Nerois, and therefore now it's going to come before the Dam HaTamid. Ta'achat Lasa, because now by the Tavas Haneros I have 3 bikers. V'hacha, and by the Tamid I only have 2. V'chatrei. V'chad Shadi Ladam HaTamid. Now we have the Dam HaTamid now has 2 bikers, and that's going to tell me that that's going to come before the Tavas Shteineris. Now Avagav Dachatche Vachatche L'Chaira, they both have 2. The Tavas Haneris has 2, and the Tamid has 2. So it says the Gemara, Mechaper Adif. A Mechaper, the Dam HaTamid comes as a kapara. The Neiris do not come as a kapara. So Mamela, that takes precedence. Why don't we take one of those bakers and join it to the dishon of the Mizbeach HaPnimi, the clearing out of the Mizbeach HaPnimi, and maybe that should come before the Dam HaTamid. Dehacha Tlasa, V'hacha Trei. Because now the Dishon of Mizbeach HaPnimi, where it also says Babaker will have 3, and the Dam HaTamid will have 2. So V'hacha Trei, the Bitlasa V'hacha Trei, V'chad Shad L'Dam HaTamid, Denektam Al-Tavas Chameshneres, and let's put the Dam HaTamid before the Tavas Chameshneres. So the order would be Dishon Mizbeach HaPnimi, Dam HaTamid, and then that Tavas Haneris. So the Nektam al Tavas Chamesh Neris. So the Dam HaTamid should come before that Tavas Neris and Gansen. The Avagav the Hachatrei V'Hachatrei Mechaper. Even though it will be 2 and 2, but we have a svara that the Oila, the Tamid is a Mechaper, so that will come first. Smar says that's very nice, but Imkain, if that would be true, Afsuki b'may Misafkasla. What are we going to break up the Hatavas Haneris with? We need to be mative 5 and then 2, which we'll see why soon. But you have to be mafsik. You need to divide. You need to take a break between those. So right now, the Dam HaTamid is what's making the break. If we're going to put the Dam HaTamid before that Tavas Haneris, so there'll be nothing to break up that Tavas Haneris. Says the Gemara, according to Shlakish, who says, explains why do we break up that Tavas Haneris into 2 parts. So the reason for that is just to make it more of a rash, that it should be more of a matziv. So the Shapir Rashi says Yesh L'Chalaymar Yavzik B'Neim Lahamtin Ben Elu LaElu L'Atzesu L'Kanes L'Te'Avodah Ben Time. So then you wouldn't necessarily need an avodah to break it up. You just go in, you do that Tavas Chameshes, you come out, everybody sees you, and then you're going back in again. That makes a rash. Okay. But El Rabbi Yechon da Amar Babaker Chelkeu L'Shnei Bekarim. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, who learns the Babaker, that it says by that Tavas Haneros is to divide up that Tavas Haneros into 2 parts. Shnei Bekarim, the 2 mornings. The 2 mornings of Tavas Haneros needs to be broken into 2. So it means you got to break it into 2 with an avodah. There's got to be an avodah between them. So now, what are you going to do? Ma'iklamemar amloi ravina l'ravashi. Hi babaker. I'm sorry. So therefore, the Gemara says that is why we have to. That is why we have to put the dishon of the mizbeach first, because that's what you plug a barisha, and then you do a tavas neris, and then we need a mafsik in between them, and that's why the dam hatamid comes next. We do the shkilas hatamid and the kabbalas hadam and the shkilas hadam, and then you go back and you do hatavas shtei neris. Now, for the Gemara, 1 second. our whole drashi here came from the fact that we had two extra bikers from the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim. Amalei Ravina Rashi. Hi babiker de Eitzim mimi yater. Is that really extra? Ha-Mitzvot legufei. You need it for itself. The ka'amrachmana nekadmu l'ma'aracha shnia shal keteris. You need that one to tell you that the Shnei Gizrei Eitzim comes before the ma'aracha shnia shal keteris. One second, that's not right. Because it doesn't come. One sec. Nekadmu l'ma'aracha shnia shal keteris. Amalei, Rav Ashi says back to him, the pasuk says, "Ubir aleha," and we learned from the aleha that you have to put that there has to be another maracha there for to tell you that you put it on the big one. So therefore, I know the maracha shnia has to be there, and then Babaker is telling you is not necessary anymore. Okay, so we got Hatavas and Eris, we got the Damatamid, and we got the Hatavas Shnei Neres. So for the Gemara, why are we doing this? Why are we doing 5 Neres first? Why don't we do the 2 Neres first? So it says, "Given the Aschabu of Aruba, once you're starting with it, you do the majority. So Venevich, why don't we do all 6? Says the Gemara, Amarkra Beitivu Esaneris, Yakdirena. It says Behativu Esaneris. So Yaktirena, that's when you're going to do the Keteris. Ve'eneris Bechus is Mishtayim. You can't have less than 2 for Neris. So I need to do 2. So I'm going to do, when I come out, the first time I do 5 and then 2. Now we continue. We prepare the 2 candles before the Keteris. The Amakra Behitivoy Esaneris, when you're preparing the candles, Vahada Yaktirena, and then it says to burn the Keteris. Uketeris le'evarim. The Keteris comes before the Evarim. The Tanya. Yuktam Davish Nemer by Babaker. The Keteris says Babaker. So that's going to come before something. The Davish Nemer by El Baker Echad Bavad. The Evarim, which is the current time, it only says Baker once, and therefore the Keteris is going to come before the Evarim. Alrighty, we will continue with this in Hashem tomorrow.